What is interesting about that, I think, more than anything else, is it's the first time we've had an admission from someone who at least used to be very senior in the party, saying that this election is not about winning, really, for the Conservatives now. It's about mitigating the losses.
Minimising defeat. And I think Geoffrey Cox is only saying out loud what lots of senior Conservatives, including very senior cabinet ministers, excuse me, are saying in private. There is broad recognition that this election has already been lost and that it's about damage limitation. And it is really important because it's the difference between whether, if Labour win a slim majority, then the fight is on for the next election. I know it seems silly to look 5 years ahead, but it does make a difference, versus basically accepting that we have 10 years of Labour government ahead. And what's remarkable about this is that it's only in 2019 that the Conservatives won an 80-seat majority and people were talking about 10 years of Boris Johnson as Prime Minister.
That's extraordinary, isn't it? Absolutely. But what I also wonder is, having an acknowledgement that the Tories are going to lose and lose badly, disastrously maybe, having that acknowledgement coming from somebody so senior is very demoralising for everybody else in the party, but also doesn't it make it then look rather immoral for them to just drag on right through to maybe November?
Well, I think there's definitely a challenge around they need to get their members and their supporters out on the doorstep asking people to vote for them, because if people think it's a lost cause, they might not vote. That's a huge challenge. They might also think, hang on a minute, there's a credible alternative 4 points behind in the polls, which is reform. Now, I didn't think that the Conservatives...
Only 4 points.
Yeah, 4 points yesterday. The Conservatives are on 19, according to YouGov. I mean, that is about as bad as it gets for them. Is it the right thing to do to drag on? I mean, personally, I think Rishi Sunak should name the date now. I think he should name it for October or November, and then everyone knows where we stand.
But that would be a very, very long run-up, wouldn't it? If he did that, because it'd be full electioneering then. In terms of reform, if they're only 4 points behind the Conservatives in the latest poll, do we need to stop the narrative, which we have been using legitimately, saying, well, they're doing all right in the polls, but they won't win any seats? Do we need to change that perspective now?
I think it's really difficult to say. It depends on Reform's electoral strategy. There's a lot of evidence that in certain parts of the country with certain demographics, they do have a really good chance. So, for example, if you're a man in the north of England, you're more likely to vote Reform, according to polling, than you are to vote Conservative. So I think if they target seats in the Red Wall and other places where there's big disillusionment with the Conservatives and what they'd promised sort of 5 years ago under Boris Johnson, then they have a chance of winning some seats. I can't imagine that Reform are at the stage where they could take masses of seats. It's more about that portion of the vote that they'll be taking away that I think is going to result in that massive Labour landslide. And I really do think at this stage it's a question of just how big that majority is.